Beautiful, timeless, and mysterious, diamonds are the celebrity of gems. From royalty to the red carpet, their star power is always on spectacular display, a dazzling symbol of wealth, power, and glamour.
It's an investment you can actually wear, which is nice for all the girls, I think.
The diamonds seen on Oscar night are practically priceless. This stunning necklace from the famed workshops of Harry Winston would command thousands on the open market. Others, such as this diamond engagement ring, are within reach of any aspiring groom willing to part with a traditional 2-month salary. Modern technology has transformed these fascinating gems from something only kings could afford to the prized possession of practically every bride-to-be. But availability has done nothing to diminish their ancient allure. For centuries, mankind has scoured the globe in search of these mysterious stones. Almost indestructible, formed billions of years ago by the crushing pressures found deep in the bowels of the earth, they are the most precious of gems. Join us as we explore the multifaceted story of diamonds, the universal symbol of undying love and devotion that will forever be on every woman's wish list. On 47th Street, just off fashionable Fifth Avenue in the heart of Midtown Manhattan, lies New York's famed Diamond District. Among the foremost centers of the world's diamond industry, trade on this bustling block averages $400 million a day, most of it in the busy shops of independent dealers like Steve Kilnison.
I may do a couple deals a day right in the street. So if I'm an indication of that, and there's 25,000 to 35,000 people on the street making 2 or 3 deals, you can see that close to 100,000 deals are made in the street a day, and probably 10 times that in the upper floors.
There are more than 2,500 independent businesses dealing in diamonds and other precious gems crammed into this concrete canyon. Most are small mom-and-pop operations, many mere booths in one of the area's 25 exchanges. In these tiny, crowded rooms, millions of dollars worth of diamonds aren't just traded each day, they're also cut, polished, and set into jewelry.
A lot of gemstones get cut here because of the labor cost. Generally, the better stones in terms of gemstones get cut here.
It's cost effective to cut a 3, 4, 5 carat stone in New York City because of the expense of the diamonds.
Today, many stones are cut in India and China, where labor is cheaper. But New York's diamond cutters, or lapidaries, have long been recognized as among the world's best. Many are Hasidic Jews, specializing in traditional techniques.
This is something that's been handed down from father to son for decades.
The old style of cutting, you have to shift the stone to catch a certain facet and polish that, and then do the other side of the facet, and then the other side, back and forth, top and bottom. So it's a lot of painstaking work if you think of even small stones that are less than 6, 7, 8 points. They're so small, but they still have a lot of faceting on it each one has to be touched precisely right.
Only the most experienced lapidary will attempt to cut a large, high-value diamond, and only after hours of careful study and preparation.
He has to look at all the different dimensions of it, all the different, where the flaws might be, where there might be easy ways to cut it, and things like that.
Whilst diamonds are naturally quite strong, they do have planes of weaknesses.
You can find little stress fractures, but if that fracture is large and breaks the surface on the top, and you hit the diamond at that point, you may have a vulnerable place.
One small slip can spoil a stone's value, or even turn a priceless diamond into a worthless stone.
If a diamond is struck at the right point above a plane of weakness, it would shatter.
You cut it darn carefully, the same way you feed lions.
A diamond's molecular structure makes it surprisingly brittle. And its natural stress fractures and internal flaws make it vulnerable to breaking under certain special circumstances. But actually, a diamond is the hardest substance found in nature. While most gems are minerals whose crystalline structure combines several different elements, diamonds consist almost entirely of a single element.
Diamond is rather pure mineral. Most minerals have a range of composition. Diamond is over 99% carbon.
Colorless diamonds are essentially pure carbon. Traces of some other element, however, can give the diamond a colored tint.
Boron makes them blue. Nitrogen in small concentrations makes them green.
Basically every colour of the rainbow. I can't tell you how many colours there are because there's just so many of them. Apricots, peach colours, and the champagnes and the cognacs, the real dark, intense colours, the blues. It's just a huge gamut.
One of the most common elements in nature, carbon is found in everything from the air we breathe to the graphite in pencils, another form of pure carbon.
Graphite is also pure carbon, but graphite is really soft. The two different planes of the carbon structure are bonded together by a very weak bond.
They're bonded to each other in sheets, and these sheets are very weakly held together by what we call van der Waals forces. And so the graphite breaks quite readily between those sheets.
Within a diamond, however, each individual carbon atom interlocks with the four atoms around it.
A diamond is extremely hard because it has all the bonds in all directions.
The result is what's called a shared electron bond.
It forms the hardest type of bond, the strongest type of bond.
Tightly packed and perfectly aligned, a diamond's molecular structure is shaped by the tremendous pressures that occur miles beneath the Earth's surface.
Diamonds form down deep inside the Earth, a depth of something over 60 to 70 to 80 miles.
It takes incredible temperatures, generally over 1,000 degrees Celsius, pressures exceeding 50 kilobars. I mean, we wouldn't survive a fraction of a second under those conditions.
But if diamonds form so deep in the Earth, just how did man discover them? The answer involves very ancient, very extinct volcanoes called pipes.
We don't have this type of volcano today. The youngest one we have is 35 million years old. But most of these were somewhere around 90 million years or even greater in age.
After these ancient volcanoes erupted, their lava cooled and hardened into the two types of rocks that diamond miners dig for: lamproite and especially kimberlite.
Historically, the most common rock type that yields diamonds in the world is kimberlite.
The kimberlite is the carrier, and this is an example of a kimberlite. A kimberlite basically is a magma which comes from this extreme depth, maybe 100 or 200 miles down, and it comes to the surface and it brings along anything it happens to pick up. So if it happens to have a rock in it that has diamonds in it, it brings it up.
Kimberlite and lamproite can contain diamonds, but they don't form them. The ancient magma acted as an elevator, carrying even older rocks to the surface. The billion-year-old rocks picked up by the kimberlite may or may not contain diamonds.
Diamond-bearing kimberlites are pretty old. There are not any kimberlite pipes that contains diamond that is younger than 70 million years.
The richest diamond fields occur in areas where the Earth's crust is very old, like India, Southern Africa, and Western Australia.
The way diamond pipes work is they actually intrude older rock. So the rocks that actually host the diamond-bearing rock is up to 2 billion years old. So you're looking at material which is about a fifth the age of the Earth.
Kimberlite volcanoes are so old that they're essentially invisible, their craters long eroded away.
Kimberlites are not easy to find. You have to find the particular kimberlite that has the diamonds.
In fact, diamond-bearing kimberlites are so hard to find that it wasn't until the 1870s that man discovered that these extinct volcanoes were the secret source of diamonds. Before then, diamonds came from what are called secondary or alluvial deposits.
Those fragments are easily taken by the rivers or by the ocean and transported in places where the water of the river slows down, or little cracks or potholes in the riverbed that may have trapped diamonds, because diamonds are denser than the rest of the minerals that are transported as sediment.
And it was nearly 3,000 years ago, on a sandy riverbank on the Indian subcontinent, that diamonds were first discovered. It's believed that diamonds were first discovered in India sometime around the 8th century BC.
Diamonds were treasured just because of this kind of magical quality, being something that transparent. And it was not like any other stones. They are much harder by a much greater degree than any other gemstones.
Soon, prospectors were scouring India's rivers, endlessly panning and sifting in hopes of finding one of the exceedingly rare stones. For centuries, India was the world's only known source of diamonds. But the stones were widely traded and prized across the ancient world.
India, being the only source for diamonds, must have made them quite exceptional.
The Romans believed diamonds were pieces of fallen stars, thought to ward off evil and bring their wearers good luck. Ancient Greeks thought the stones were the indestructible tears of the gods. The word diamond comes from the Greek word atomos, meaning invincible.
They knew how to cut all the other gemstones. They couldn't cut diamond. They couldn't alter the shape of diamond. And thus they believed that it was unalterable and indestructible.
Diamonds were also exceedingly rare. In the 1st century AD, Roman historian Pliny the Elder described diamonds as known to kings only and to very few of them.
The only stones that would make it the whole trade route to, let's say, Rome were very small pieces. The best stones were taken and used locally by the great rulers of India, and they kept them in their personal collections.
In the 1500s, Europeans finally began trading directly with India. And in the 1600s, the French merchant and adventurer Jean-Baptiste Tavernier became one of history's foremost diamond traders.
Tavernier wrote a book about his experiences, and in that book, he even would sketch out the different gemstones, which even today we go back to look at and to document the history of some of the important diamonds.
The most important diamond Tavernier acquired in his travels was the fabled French blue. He sold the magnificent 112-carat rough to France's King Louis XIV. Lost during the chaos of the French Revolution, the French blue is believed to be the source of a 44.5-carat stone that later turned up in the possession of a London banker named Henry Philip Hope.
The reason why you lose track of important gemstones is that they can be easily recut, and they then can't be identified by the shape or the weight anymore.
But there was no altering the diamond's deep blue color.
It's a very unlikely color for a diamond, and it is almost a deep steely blue color that separates it from virtually every other diamond.
Hope's heirs sold the stone in 1901. By 1910, it was in the collection of an American named Evelyn Walsh McLean. A famous eccentric, Miss McLean wore the diamond everywhere, often let friends and guests try it on, and once even had it set in a collar for her Great Dane. But her greatest contribution to the Hope Diamond's colorful history had to be the curse.
Miss Evelyn Walsh McLean wove quite interesting stories about the diamond, mainly for her own amusement, including that the diamond is unlucky. And people like the idea of an inanimate object possessing some kind of magic about it. But the diamond really is not been unlucky. It's we hope not, because it was later given to the Smithsonian by Harry Winston. And so now it's owned by America.
The Hope Diamond may be the most famous, but it was not the first or largest diamond to capture the entire world's imagination. The oldest diamond we can trace the lineage of is the Koh-i-Noor, which is now one of the British crown jewels. It first belonged to the Raja of Malwa, who acquired it in 1294. 300 years later, it became the property of the Sultan of Delhi, when Babur, the first Mughal emperor, conquered the city in 1526. Over the next 3 centuries, war and conquest carried the stone to Persia, Afghanistan, and Punjab, until in 1849, the stone passed into British hands. By the 19th century, India was no longer the world's sole source of diamonds. Starting in 1730, native miners called garimpeiros began gathering diamonds from the banks of Brazil's great rivers.
They were looking for gold in the rivers of Brazil, and they discovered diamonds. And it created quite a new supply that they didn't have before, as the Indian stones had been producing less and less as time went on, which is typical of any mine. But it came at a good time, and they brought back quite a few stones from the rivers of Brazil.
For a time, Brazil's deposits became the world's best source for diamonds. But that would all change in 1867, when a 21-carat rough diamond was found along the banks of the Orange River in South Africa. 2 years later, a 47.75-carat diamond was found in the same area, sparking widespread interest.
When diamonds were discovered in South Africa, there was a mass influx, kind of like we had with the gold rush. And people came from all over the world to strike it rich.
Thousands of prospectors descended upon the sandy banks of the Orange River. But before long, they began finding diamonds far from the water's edge. One hill in particular, on the farm of Johannes Nicholas and Deirdre Arnoldus de Beer, appeared almost covered in diamonds.
They discovered that they could go down into the earth, and the diamonds were discovered as deep as they could dig down.
The De Beers farm was sitting on top of the first diamond pipe ever found. Almost overnight, the area became a boom town that miners called Kimberley, after the British colonial secretary. From there, prospectors fanned out across South Africa, finding more pipes and more diamonds. In 1905, at the premier mine outside Johannesburg, miners uncovered the largest diamond ever found, 3,106 carats. That's over 1.3 pounds. Called the Cullinan diamond after the mine's owner, the supersized stone was eventually cut into 9 sizable gems and a number of smaller ones. The largest, the 530.2 carat Great Star of Africa, is currently mounted on the Royal Scepter of the United Kingdom. A century later, the premier mine is still producing diamonds. But South Africa is no longer the world's premier source of these sought-after gemstones. Currently, South Africa ranks 5th in production, behind Australia, Botswana, Russia, and Canada.
Geographically, diamonds form in different places all over the world, but it's usually in a similar type of locality each time. They might not seem similar as far as what the weather is today and what the topography is, but the fact is they do have similar types of old rocks underneath the surface.
Western Australia's Argyle mine is currently the world's largest producer of diamonds. A massive open-pit operation that spreads over 100 acres, Argyle churns out about 35 million carats of diamonds annually.
It's the only economically viable diamond-bearing lamproite in the world. Bit of a mouthful, but it truly is the only chunk of rock of its kind anywhere on the planet. There's no other chunk of rock on the planet which is as well endowed in diamonds as Argyle.
Prospectors searching for gold first found alluvial diamonds in Australia in the late 19th century. The deposits were small and the diamonds few and far between. There was very little large-scale mining until, in the early 70s, a company called CRA began a systematic search for the ancient volcanic source of Australia's diamonds.
They hunt for what they call indicator minerals. These are minerals that will give some indication that there might be diamonds or kimberlite. So they'll look for a particular type of garnet or a particular type of ilmenite or things like that, chromites, and from that they can then predict.
Sometime in the late 1970s, purely by good luck and good fortune, CRA discovered diamonds, liberated diamonds in stream sediments on Smoke Creek. And at that point in time, they only knew that the diamonds were actually coming from upstream.
Another mining company leased the upstream land. But they were looking for copper and zinc, not diamonds. And CRA sat on the news of its discovery for over a year.
Until the lease from that previous mining company expired, it was absolutely top secret. So when the lease expired in the late 1970s, CRA literally overnight hired every single helicopter they could find in the East Kimberley, and they then showed up at the Mines Department office in Kununurra at 9 in the morning and pegged the ground. And they then actually followed that stream up into what we know as the Argyle Pipe today.
Full-scale mining operations began in 1983, starting with the diamond-rich topsoil surrounding the main pipe.
When the mine was first discovered, the surrounding countryside was covered in alluvial gravel. And the gravels that actually surround the main pipe were quite rich in liberated diamonds. So prior to the construction of most of the infrastructure you see around us, the alluvial gravels around the main pipes mined.
Digging on the main pipe didn't begin until 2 years later in 1985. By then, the mine's owners had the machinery and manpower in place to run a state-of-the-art operation.
We like to mine with the best equipment, using the best knowledge and experience. Therefore, it does make our operation a lot more efficient and a lot safer because we're using the latest equipment and the latest techniques.
Argyle, like most modern diamond mines, started out as a massive open pit. Using heavy machinery, workers stripped back tons of dirt to expose the diamond-bearing lamproite.
Once the ore body's then exposed, the focus is on moving the ore to the crusher.
Sounds simple enough, but the scale of the operation and the amount of material involved is mind-boggling.
We plan to move about 80,000 tonnes of dirt a shift, a 12-hour shift, so about 160, 165,000 a day. This year we'll move 53 million tonnes of dirt in the year.
And only an infinitesimal amount of that dirt actually contains diamonds.
It's a lot of effort and a lot of drilling and a lot of digging to get diamonds out of the ground today.
They're 170-tonne trucks. They deliver ore at a rate of roughly 1,900 tonnes per hour.
Hour by hour, day by day, the miners dig deeper and deeper into the pipe.
So we mine out 15 metres, a wedge of 15 metres, and then we leave 10 metres to the wall as our bench and our berm, as our step down. Then we step down again, like a set of steps, and that maintains that structure and that strength in the wall so they don't collapse in.
Eventually, though, the open pit mine will play out.
One reaches a point where it actually costs more to strip waste rock than the profits to be gained from extracting the ore from the open cut. So when you get to that point, you explore other options of mining, and with Argyle, the best possible option is to go underground.
It's taken over 20 years, but Argyle has almost reached that point.
We will probably finish the major part of the open pit operation in December 2008. By that stage, the underground will have come online.
Opening the underground mine has required Argyle to dig a deep tunnel to access the pipe at a safe distance underneath the surface pit.
The underground portal will intersect the ore body about minus 355 metres below sea level.
Once underground, the miners will continue to burrow down as before, following the main pipe as long as possible.
With depth, diamond deposits do taper to a point where it becomes too expensive to extract the diamonds.
But before digging can begin underground, the mine will have to make a billion-dollar investment in infrastructure.
One of the biggest issues is actually establishing the development of the underground, all the conveyor systems, and having everything on the surface to support that, and having that interlocking then into the current surface plant and processing that we do.
Whether strip mined from the surface or dug from deep below, the ore is brought here to the primary crusher. The huge machine is the heart of a diamond mine's processing plant. Its job is to break the rock down to roughly fist-sized chunks. From there, conveyors carry the ore to a second high-pressure crusher that liberates the diamonds from the lamproite.
The difference between other crushers and the high-pressure Rolls crusher is that conventional cone crushers have more of an impact force, which tends to shatter the diamonds. You know, if you drop a diamond or hit it with a hammer, it'll shatter. Whereas if you squeeze a diamond, it won't break. And that's how the high-pressure Rolls crushers work. They squeeze the diamonds out of the rock.
Reduced to about golf ball size, the diamond ore is then sent to a machine called a photomultiplier that separates out the rough diamonds.
There are X-ray machines which spray from all sides the rocks with X-rays. When a diamond sees the X-ray, it fluoresces a bright blue, and all of a sudden, this thing will just shine like crazy.
When the photomultiplier tubes see the visible light, they initiate the air blast, which blasts the diamond material into the concentrate stream, and the gangue material just falls via gravity into a waste stream.
The concentrate is collected while the waste goes back into the crusher for another round. The process is repeated 3 or 4 times as the rock and the diamonds recovered gradually get smaller.
We recover roughly 99.6% of all diamonds in our ore, so it's very, very efficient. We recover all diamonds down to 1 millimetre in size. Our screen cut-off size is 1.5 mil, but we still do get 1 mil stones in our concentrates.
From the time a truckload is first tipped, the process can take a week. Then, once the last minuscule diamond is recovered, the gem quality stones are sent to Perth, where they are sorted and graded for the wholesale market. But the vast majority of diamonds mined in full-scale diamond operations like Argyle's aren't high enough quality to become jewelry. Instead, they are destined for industrial use. Most diamonds will never adorn a ring or necklace. Instead, they're attached to the tips of drill bits or other cutting tools.
They've got too many inclusions, too many flaws, too many things that make jewelers unhappy.
Or they may simply be too small. Because even diamond dust is stronger than any other natural material, diamond chips and dust are a common industrial abrasive.
The most widely used commercial application is cutting and polishing tools.
Well, they use diamond powder, of course, for polishing diamonds. They use diamond powder and saw blades and things for cutting purposes.
And drills tipped with diamonds from Australia's Argyle mine, the world's largest producer of industrial diamonds, root out everything from crude oil to cavities.
There's a very strong chance that every person who goes to the dentist in the world has their cavities drilled out by Argyle diamonds.
Widely used for a variety of applications, industrial diamonds are a valuable commodity. But it's the gem-quality diamonds found in jewelry that inspire the imagination and command the highest prices. A diamond's market value is based on 4 criteria commonly called the 4 C's: carat, clarity, color, and cut.
Each of those has impact on the beauty of the stone, the desirability of the stone, the rarity of the stone, and thus the price of the stone.
The first C, carat weight, measures the mass of the stone. 1 carat is exactly 200 milligrams, about 7/100ths of an ounce. Diamonds less than 1 carat are measured in points. 1 point is 1/100th of a carat, or 2 milligrams.
The larger a gemstone in nature, particularly one of fine quality, the rarer and the costlier it will be.
Size matters, but bigger isn't always more beautiful.
Everyone wants a big stone, but only a very tiny percentage are 3 carats and above that are of gem quality.
The reason has to do with the second C, clarity. In the diamond trade, clarity is a measure of internal defects called inclusions.
The clarity grade has to do with what was included in the stone as it formed in nature. They can be crystals of the same gem. They can be microscopic crystals of some other gem. They can be little gas bubbles. They can be stress fractures.
Inclusions affect clarity because they interfere with the light's penetration.
Since all diamonds have at least some trace impurities, agencies such as the Geological Institute of America have created grading systems to identify a diamond's clarity.
When they give a clarity grade, they're evaluating how many inclusions, what color are the inclusions, where are they placed in the gemstone, do they affect the durability or the visibility in any way. So once you've identified all of those things, you come to a composite grade.
Grades range on a sliding scale from flawless to included, denoted by a series of letters and numbers. The coveted IF, flawless, is only given to diamonds that have no visible inclusions at a magnified power of 10 times normal vision. Completely flawless diamonds are extremely rare. Only a few hundred are produced per year worldwide and can cost from tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Diamonds rated VVS and VS have very slight flaws.
Each V stands for very, so very, very small to very small.
Diamonds with no inclusions visible to the naked eye are known as eye clean and a popular choice for most buyers, while diamonds rated SI1 and SI2 have increasing degrees of slight inclusions. Below SI come the I-rated or included diamonds, ranging from I1 to I3, depending on the level of inclusion. Typically, the more inclusions a stone has, the lower the price.
I'm going to look literally internally within the stone. I'm going to see what characteristics there are. Right there in the center, you've got a fracture. And of course, seeing those helps to determine the exact clarity of this particular stone.
Sometimes, an inclusion can actually enhance a stone's value.
Inclusions aren't necessarily bad, and sometimes they have a lot of personality. You can get an imperfect diamond that might have a sapphire embedded in it. And it's a beautiful blue stone embedded inside of a diamond, which I've seen. And it's gorgeous.
The third C, color, is a function of impurities and imperfections within the stone.
Now, any diamond that isn't actually white or flawless is purely a function of impurities in the actual diamond crystal itself and inconsistencies within the crystal structure of the diamond itself.
White diamonds, known in the trade as colorless, are graded on a color scale from D to Z.
D is the rarest. It is like looking through crystal clear spring water. There is no tint of color.
Most engagement diamonds are in the colorless range, which is D through F, or the near colorless range, which is G through J. Below J to Z, the tint in the gem gradually increases. Beyond Z are fancy colored diamonds, which occur in a rainbow of colors, like this brilliant yellow, which is highly valued and extremely rare.
Red is the rarest, most valuable of all gems on Earth. Only a handful of known truly red diamonds. Blue diamonds and green diamonds are extremely rare and extremely costly. Pink diamonds are extremely rare and extremely costly.
Australia's Argyle mine produces most of the world's pinks.
Argyle is the only diamond deposit in the world that has a reliable source of pink diamonds.
Pinks are found in other places in the world, but the pink colour isn't as intense.
Unlike most colored stones, it's imperfections in the crystalline structure that produce a pink diamond's distinctive tint. Argyle's famous pinks range from a light champagne color to rich rose to, rarest of all, a deep purplish pink.
A champagne of around about 30 points would retail for about $600. About the same size stone in a top intense purplish pink would retail for somewhere around about $60,000.
And that's just for the rough. The fourth C, how a diamond is cut, can greatly enhance a stone's value.
The cut is the most important criteria, especially in a diamond, to me as a gemologist. The color is important, clarity, but all of these don't come together if the diamond is not proportioned correctly. Because if it's not proportioned correctly, the human eye will not receive the full brilliance, and it'll be a dull stone.
The way a stone is cut is vitally important to its liveliness, its personality. It's the cutting that's affecting the way light moves through the stone and comes back up to the eye. So a badly cut stone can sell for 40 to 50% less than one that's beautifully cut.
Depending on the shape of the rough, some stones are chiseled into what are called fancy cuts.
There are certain cuts in diamonds that have always been traditional. Your marquee, your oval, your radiant cut, your emerald cut.
Cuts rise and fall in popularity according to fashion. During the 1920s and 30s, the most popular fancy cut was the baguette, which highlights a diamond's luster and downplays its fire. Currently, the princess cut, which favors fire at the expense of luster, is gaining popularity.
Over the past couple decades, the princess cut has been really become popular, and you've seen the marquee cut maybe come down a little bit. The pear shape may rise in popularity because of some movie star wearing something like that.
However, since most gem-quality diamonds are octahedrons in their rough state, the gem cutter typically cuts the rough crystal into two, and then shapes each half into a round brilliant, the most common diamond cut.
When we talk about brilliant cuts, we're talking about putting these little faces around the stone.
Developed at the start of the 20th century from earlier diamond cuts dating back more than 300 years, the 58 facets of a modern brilliant cut diamond are carefully calculated to maximize the stone's inner sparkle and fire.
It's the proportioning of the top. It's the proportioning of the bottom. It's the thickness of the girdle. It's the size of that big flat facet on top that we call the table in relation to the diameter of the stone. All of these things are affecting the way light goes in, the angle at which the light's going to come back, how much light is coming back at you.
Once cut and polished, the stones are ready to be sold. Most pass through one of the world's leading wholesale centers, London, Antwerp, or Manhattan's Diamond District. The very finest diamonds, however, are often sold direct to the consumer. Every year, for instance, the Argyle mine sells its 50 best pink stones in a series of exclusive sales whose jet-setting clientele and state-of-the-art security are straight from a James Bond movie.
They take this 50 or 60 stones around the world to Geneva, New York, London, Hong Kong, Perth has a showing. And people are invited to bid on the stones. It's a private bidding, so it's all very secretive.
Diamonds may no longer be known only to kings, but in today's market, the finest stones can still command a king's ransom. For the rest of us, shopping for a diamond is finding the right balance between desirability and affordability. And that's where the 4 C's come into play.
I bought a diamond for my wife, a rather nice large diamond, a couple carats. But in fact, it wasn't a really great cut, and it wasn't really a great clarity, and it wasn't really clean. But it's big as all get out. So it depends upon what you're looking for. Some people like to flash a big one.
It's a personality thing. There are people who love that brilliance. That's what they want first. They want the brilliance, and then color, and then whatever else. There are others who are just, they want that color and whatever enriches the color to the fullest. So it's a personal thing.
But no matter how big, brilliant, or clear your diamond is, proper care can help it maintain its value and its beauty for generations. Whether it's an almost priceless pink or a simple set of stud earrings, dust and debris will dull a diamond's natural fire. Lotions, soaps, and even the skin's natural oils will put a film on diamonds and cut down their brilliance. To avoid this, the stone should be regularly cleaned using mild liquid detergents or soaked in a solution of cold water and household ammonia. For stubborn grime, consult your jeweler. Protect your diamonds by storing them in a fabric-lined jewel case with compartments or dividers. Diamond pieces jumbled together in a drawer or jewelry box can scratch other jewelry or each other. To prevent loss, it's wise to have your prongs and settings periodically checked and tightened by a jeweler. Properly cared for, diamonds can truly last forever. Family heirlooms that can be passed down for generations. Not all diamonds come from deep inside the earth. An increasing number are now coming from labs and factories, and some are as beautiful as their natural counterparts, though possibly not quite as pricey. Diamonds were first synthetically produced in 1953, when a team of Swedish scientists developed a process that combines searing heat and intense pressure to produce a few small crystals.
A synthetic laboratory-grown diamond is physically and chemically identical to the one created by nature. The chemicals used are identical. The stone is essentially the same thing.
Most synthetic stones are small crystals created for industrial purposes, but they add up to big business. More than 3 billion carats, or 600 metric tons, of synthetic diamonds are produced annually.
Synthetic diamonds are the main source of diamonds that are used in industry. A synthetic is a material that has been artificially grown by humans with the same mineral components and the same crystalline structure as the natural gemstone. Sometimes it is very difficult to distinguish between the natural gemstone and a synthetic.
While synthetic diamonds are chemically identical to real diamonds, there are many other kinds of diamond simulants which cater to price-conscious consumers looking for a jewel that mimics a diamond's appearance.
A simulant is a material that has a likeness to the actual gem that imitates, but it doesn't have the same properties and it's chemically not the same.
Simulants date from the 1700s, when Austrian jeweler Joseph Strasser discovered that melting colorless glass with lead oxide produced a hard glass that could be cut and polished to produce a brilliant diamond-like sheen.
Everybody wore strass all the way through the 19th century. It was not looked down upon as costume jewelry. It wasn't fake anything. It was pretty jewelry.
But the simulant that comes closest to the sparkle and shimmer of a true diamond is cubic zirconia.
Cubic zirconia and diamond are of the kind of gemstones where the light, when it penetrates, it's transmitted equally in every direction. So we cannot distinguish them in that way. But we can distinguish the fire. It will produce more spectral colors than diamond. Also, the specific gravity of cubic zirconia is higher than the specific gravity of diamond, which means that If you have a diamond of 1 carat with a round, brilliant cut, and you have a cubic zirconia of 1 carat with a round, brilliant cut, the cubic zirconia will be smaller.
Developed in 1976 by scientists in the former Soviet Union, today, cubic zirconia accounts for roughly 80% of the simulated diamonds on the market. Since cubic zirconia is denser than diamond, it also conducts heat differently, a property that's led jewelers to develop a device called a diamond tester.
It works on the property of diamond to heat up at a different rate than cubic zirconia and the other synthetics do. And essentially the jeweler touches the stone that is unknown, and if it gets a red light, it means it's not a diamond. If you get the green light, it is a diamond.
Like all modern industries, even one as ancient as the diamond trade, technology is having a big impact on nearly every aspect of the business. The biggest changes can be found in cutting and polishing, where computer-controlled lasers are supplanting the lapidary's timeless techniques.
They can cut a diamond more accurately with a laser. Like years ago, if you were given a steak and somebody said, I want you to trim off the fat, and you had a cleaver, you had to chop off various portions of the steak as well as the fat. Today, with a laser or a very thin paring knife, you could go around wiggling back and forth and take off nothing but fat. So now they have the advantage with lasers of cutting diamonds such that they maximize on the return in carats per diamond.
Diamond cutting isn't the only of the 4 C's to receive cutting-edge treatment. Modern technology can also change a stone's clarity and color.
Color in fancy colored stones can be altered through something called high pressure, high temperature annealing, which can cause a wide range of fancy colors.
Another common technique uses radiation to enhance or even alter a diamond's natural tint.
Irradiation, bombarding the gemstone with particles, is the main way in which the gemstone is altered. And the bombardment may involve either electrons, or which are subatomic particles that are negatively charged. It might involve neutrons, or it might involve gamma radiation.
The radiation, which in no way affects humans, does affect the stone's color by changing the alignment of the atoms. As a result, colored diamonds are now available to the consumer at a fraction of the cost of their naturally occurring counterparts.
It's fine as long as you know what you're paying for and you pay an appropriate price for what you're actually getting.
In the new millennium, modern materials technology has even begun to produce true gem-quality synthetic diamonds.
In the last few years, colorless synthetic diamonds have been created by several labs.
So far, synthetic fancy-colored stones are much more affordable than natural stones of comparable color. But synthetic colorless stones are still very expensive.
In the future, technologies may enable them to be produced at much more affordable prices.
Almost 2,000 years after an unnamed prospector pulled the first diamond from an Indian riverbank, diamonds remain prized above all other gems. No matter where it comes from, the timeless beauty and romantic charm of the diamond will be with us forever.